My niece was standing in my hallway with her backpack hugged to her chest like a shield. She was supposed to be excited about going home. Instead, when I bent down to hug her goodbye, she quietly took my hand. "Uncle, I don't really want to go home." I froze. I'd heard victims say that same line in interrogation rooms just before they broke. "Why?" I asked. She hesitated, eyes flicking toward the front door. "Actually, before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better." And that was when my sister appeared on the porch. No smile, no hello. She just reached into her purse, pulled out a folded sheet of paper, and slipped it into my hand like a bribe. What I read nearly stopped my heart. 10 years as a cop and another 5 as a private investigator had shown me what monsters looked like. I just hadn't expected to find one wearing my sister's face. The document was printed on official letterhead, a psychological evaluation, clinical language, assessment codes, the kind of paperwork that follows a kid forever. According to this Dr. Helena Wright, Lori was demonstrating patterns of manipulation, emotional instability, and concerning behavioral regression requiring immediate intervention. I read it twice. My hands didn't shake because I'd trained them not to, but my jaw locked tight enough to crack teeth. Meredith appeared behind Lori, one hand gentle on the girl's shoulder. My wife had spent 20 years as a paramedic before moving to clinic coordination. She knew how to read a room, and right now she was reading me. "Nolan?" she said quietly. I looked up at Marla. My sister stood on the porch in expensive yoga pants and a jacket that cost more than our mortgage payment. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. She looked like every PTA mom in America, but her eyes were flat and cold. "We need to talk," I said. "There's nothing to talk about." Marla's voice had that practiced patience I remembered from childhood, the one she used when she wanted witnesses to think she was the reasonable one. "Lori has been struggling. We're getting her help. That's what good parents do." "Good parents don't lock their kids in at night." The words came out before I could stop them. Lori had whispered that to Meredith 2 nights ago, half asleep on our couch during a movie. We thought she was exaggerating. Kids do that. But now, looking at this document with its careful lies, I wasn't so sure. Marla's smile never wavered. "She's told you stories, hasn't she? That's part of the pattern. Dr. Wright warned us about this. She forms attachments to authority figures and then manufactures crises to keep their attention." "She's 13, Meredith said. Her voice had gone quiet, which meant she was furious. "She's a child. She's my child." Marla stepped inside without asking, and suddenly our small entryway felt crowded. "And I'm doing what's best for her, even if it's hard, even if it makes me look like the bad guy to people who don't understand." I glanced down at Lori. She'd gone completely still, the way rabbits do when they spot a hawk. Her fingers were white where they gripped her backpack straps. "Lori stays here tonight," I said. "We'll bring her home tomorrow." Marla's mask cracked just a little. That's not how this works, Nolan. One more night won't hurt anything, unless there's a reason you need her back right now." The silence stretched. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. A car passed. Normal suburban sounds. But inside our house, everything had gone sharp and dangerous. Finally, Marla reached out and touched Lori's cheek. The girl flinched just slightly. "Tomorrow," Marla said. "Noon. If she's not home, I call the police and report a custodial interference." She walked out without another word. Through the window, I watched her climb into her BMW and pull away with careful precision. After Lori went upstairs, Meredith and I sat at the kitchen table. The document lay between us like evidence at a crime scene. "This is fabricated," I said, "or at least heavily edited." "Can you prove it?" "Maybe. I need to make some calls." I pulled out my phone, then stopped. "Mer, if I'm right about this, if Marla is setting something up, then we fight." Meredith's hand covered mine. "We fight for that little girl because no one else will." I looked at my wife, 53 years old, gray starting to show in her dark hair, lines around her eyes from 2 decades of night shifts and emergency calls. We'd been trying for a kid since we got married. 10 years of hoping, failing, and eventually accepting. But watching Meredith with Lori these past few days, I'd seen something I hadn't seen in years. Joy. "What if we can't win?" I asked. "Then we lose fighting. But we don't give up." I opened my laptop and started a new file. 15 years of investigative work had taught me one fundamental truth. If you want to catch someone doing something wrong, you build the case one piece at a time. I titled the file Keene Dorsey Residence and started typing. At 11:30 the next morning, I pulled up to Marla's house with Lori in the passenger seat. She hadn't said much during the drive, just stared out the window at the passing houses. Felix was on the front porch before I even turned off the engine. Marla's husband was 46, but looked older, with the puffy face and broken capillaries of a serious drinker. He was holding a beer at noon on a Sunday. "Right on time," he called out. "Marla was worried you'd try something stupid." "Just bringing Lori home, like we agreed." Felix took a long drink, his eyes never leaving me. "You know, Nolan, you always did think you were smarter than everyone else, the big hero cop. But you're not a cop anymore, are you?" Lori's hand found mine. I gave it a gentle squeeze. The front door opened and Marla stepped out. "Lori, sweetie, come inside. I made lunch." "I'm not hungry," Lori said quietly. "You need to eat." Marla's smile was warm, but her eyes were ice. "Say goodbye to your uncle." I bent down. "You have my number, right?" Lori nodded. As I straightened up, Marla moved forward and wrapped Lori in a hug that looked perfect from any angle. But I noticed how stiff Lori went, how her arms barely moved to return the gesture. "Thank you for watching her," Marla said. "I know how much you and Meredith enjoy playing house. It must be hard, not having children of your own." The words were designed to cut, and they did. "Any time," I said. "She's family." "Yes, my family." Marla released Lori and guided her toward the door. I watched them disappear inside. Felix lingered on the porch, finishing his beer. He crushed the can in one hand and tossed it toward a recycling bin. It missed. "Something you want to say?" he asked. "Nope." I turned toward my car. "Good, because we're handling our family business our way, without interference from washed-up cops who couldn't even keep their own badge." I stopped, turned back. Felix was grinning now. "I didn't lose my badge," I said quietly. "I turned it in." "Sure you did." He stepped down off the porch, moving into my space. His breath reeked of alcohol and cigarettes. "Here's some free advice. Stay away from our kid. She's got problems you can't fix." Every muscle in my body wanted to put him on the ground. Instead, I smiled. "Have a good day, Felix." I got in my car and drove away, but I circled back and parked 2 streets over where I had a clear view of their house through a gap in the fences. 30 minutes later, I saw what I was looking for. Lori's bedroom window was on the 2nd floor, facing the backyard, and there, just visible in the afternoon light, was a deadbolt lock mounted on the outside of the door frame. I took 3 photos with my phone's zoom function. Then I made notes. Date, time, location, weather conditions. Everything that would matter if this ended up in court. My phone buzzed. A text from Meredith. "How did it go?" "About like you'd expect. Coming home, need to make calls?" I drove home thinking about that lock, about Felix day drinking on a Sunday, about Marla's careful performance and Lori's rigid silence, pieces of a pattern I'd seen too many times before. When I got home, Meredith was waiting with my laptop already open. "I've been thinking," she said, "about what comes next." "Yeah?" "If they're planning to send Lori somewhere, they'll need more than one evaluation. They'll need school records, medical history, input from other professionals." I sat down across from her. "You think we can get ahead of that?" "I think we need to try." She pushed a notepad toward me. "School counselor, pediatrician, previous therapists, anyone who actually knows Lori. That's good work. I also think we need to document everything from our end, the days she stayed with us, her behavior, eating habits, sleep patterns. We need to show what she's like in a stable environment versus what they're claiming." We worked through the afternoon. I made calls to contacts from my cop days, asking careful questions about family court procedures, about what actually moved judges to act. Around 3, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Nolan Avery." "Mr. Avery, this is Jennifer Park from Child Protective Services. Do you have a few minutes to talk?" A chill swept through me. I put the phone on speaker. "Of course. What's this about?" "We received a concerning report this morning regarding your contact with your niece, Lori Keene. The report alleges inappropriate behavior and possible grooming patterns. I need to schedule a home visit to discuss these allegations." Marla had moved fast. Less than 24 hours, and she'd already weaponized the system against me. "Those allegations are false," I said carefully, "but I'm happy to cooperate." "Can you meet with me tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. at your residence?" "We'll be here." After she hung up, Meredith and I sat in silence. "She's trying to cut us off from Lori," Meredith said. "If CPS flags you as a potential abuser, we can't help her, can't even contact her." "It's actually smart. Brutal, but smart." What do we do? I thought about all the cases I'd worked, all the investigations I'd built. We treat this like any other case. We prepare, we document, and when that social worker shows up tomorrow, we show her exactly who we are and who Marla is. And if that's not enough? I looked at the evaluation still sitting on our table, at the lies printed in clinical language. Then we get mean, I said. Jennifer Park arrived at 8:55 the next morning. She was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with dark hair pulled back and eyes that had seen too much too soon. Meredith offered coffee. Park accepted. We all sat in the living room like this was a social call instead of an interrogation. "Thank you for meeting with me," Park said, pulling out a tablet. "I want to be clear that we take all reports seriously, but that doesn't mean we've reached any conclusions." "We understand," I said. "What exactly are we accused of?" Park hesitated, then decided on honesty. "The report suggests that you've been attempting to alienate Lori from her parents, that you've made inappropriate comments about her mother and encouraged her to lie. There's also a suggestion that your interest in Lori may not be appropriate, given that you and your wife have been unable to have children." Meredith's hand tightened on her coffee mug. "That's quite a narrative. The report also mentions that you took photos of their house yesterday without permission. So they'd seen me. I'd been sloppy." "I took photos of the exterior," I said carefully, "from a public street. Not a crime. But concerning behavior, given the context." Park looked up. "Mr. Avery, I've read your background. Decorated cop, clean record, now a licensed PI. You know how these situations look." "I do, but I also know what mistreatment looks like, and I think Lori's being harmed." "Based on what?" This was the moment. I could hedge, or I could go all in. I chose all in. "Based on the fact that there's a deadbolt lock on the outside of her bedroom door. Based on the fact that Felix Dorsey day drinks and has a history of aggressive behavior. Based on the fact that the psychological evaluation Marla showed me has been edited or fabricated." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. "That's Lori's window, second floor. You can see the lock hardware." Park studied the images. Something in her posture shifted. "I'd need to verify this," she said. "Then verify it. Do a home inspection. Talk to Lori privately, away from her parents. Check their financials, Felix's employment history." I leaned forward. "I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm asking you to investigate properly. You understand that if I do what you're suggesting, and if I'm wrong, I could ruin a family. Marla Keene runs a respected youth center. She's known in the community." "Check the bar tabs," Meredith said quietly. "Check how much they spend every month at clubs while claiming they can't afford therapy for their daughter." Park looked at her. "You really believe Lori's in danger?" "I believe she's terrified. I believe she doesn't want to go home, and I believe that little girl deserves someone to actually listen to her." The silence stretched. Finally, Park nodded. "All right, I'll do a home visit. But I need you both to understand. If this turns out to be a custody dispute disguised as claims of mistreatment, I will report it as such." "That's fair," I said. After she left, Meredith let out a long breath. "That went better than I expected. Maybe, or maybe we just painted a bigger target on ourselves." I spent the rest of the day digging into Dr. Helena Wright, licensed psychologist, private practice, specializing in adolescent behavioral issues. Her credentials seemed legitimate. But when I cross-referenced her court testimony, I found something interesting. Dr. Wright appeared almost exclusively on behalf of parents seeking to institutionalize their children. 9 cases over 3 years. In 8, she'd recommended residential treatment. In 7 of those 8, the children had been placed in the same facility, Riverside Behavioral Center, 3 states away. I dug deeper. Riverside had a troubled history, multiple complaints about inadequate supervision, allegations of inappropriate restraint techniques, at least 1 lawsuit. And the kicker. Riverside offered referral bonuses to professionals who sent patients their way. This wasn't about helping Lori, this was about money. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. "Uncle Nolan?" My heart rate spiked. "Lori?" "Using a friend's phone. Can't talk long. Mom took mine, said I can't contact you anymore." "Are you safe?" "For now, but I heard her on the phone last night. She's planning something. Said I'll be gone soon and you won't be able to stop it." "Listen carefully. If anything happens, if they try to take you somewhere, you scream, you fight, you make noise. Don't go quietly, understand? I'm scared. I know, but we're working on this. Tell the truth to anyone who asks, all of it." The message thread went silent. I called Tyler Briggs. "Hey man," he answered. "What's up?" "I need a favor. Surveillance work." Whose life are we ruining? My sister's. A pause. I'm listening. I filled him in on everything. Tyler had been a firefighter for 20 years before starting his safety consulting business. He'd seen his share of bad parents. So, you need eyes on the house, he said. And ears. Felix hangs out at Clancy's on 4th Street. I need to know what he's saying, who he's talking to, if he mentions anything about Lori or their plans. You know this is basically stalking. It's research, and it's legal as long as we're in public spaces. Your PE license, your rules. I can start tonight. Find out what you can about Marla's finances, too. I want to know if money's actually tight or if that's another lie. That'll take longer. Financial records aren't exactly public. Do what you can. I spent the rest of the day building my case file. Every photo, every text message, every conversation documented and dated. I pulled property records, vehicle registrations, business filings for Marla's enrichment center. The picture that emerged was interesting. Marla's business was doing well. Regular deposits, steady growth. Her personal accounts should have reflected that success. But they were living beyond their means. Mortgage payments barely made on time, credit cards maxed out, a second loan on the house taken out 6 months ago. Someone was spending money faster than it came in, and I was willing to bet that someone was Felix. Around 6 p.m., my phone rang. Jennifer Park. I visited the Keene residence this afternoon, she said without preamble. I saw the lock. I also spoke with Lori privately. And I'm opening a formal investigation. I've recommended that Lori be placed in temporary custody with a relative while we investigate. My breath caught. With us? That would be logical. But Marla is fighting it. She's threatened to file an emergency petition claiming you're a danger to Lori. She has 3 professional references willing to testify. Bought and paid for. Maybe, but they'll be persuasive in court. You need to prepare for a fight. I've been in fights before. Not like this one. This is family court. It's not about evidence. It's about which story sounds better. And right now, Marla's story is very compelling. So what do? Build your own story, get witnesses, get documentation, and pray the judge listens. She hung up. I sat there trying to process what I'd just heard. Temporary custody. It was possible. Not likely, but possible. My phone buzzed again. Tyler. You're going to want to hear this. I'm at Clancy's. Felix just showed up, already halfway gone, and he's talking. A lot. About what? About free money. About how they're finally going to cash out on the crazy kid. About how Marla found some place that pays parents a monthly stipend for hard cases. He's laughing about it, Nolan. I closed my eyes. You recording this? Every word. Keep on him. See what else he says. When I got home, Meredith was waiting. Bad? She asked. Complicated. But we're making progress. I showed her everything. They're planning to move fast, which means we need to move faster. How? I'm still figuring that out. But the truth was, I already knew. This wasn't going to end in a courtroom. Tyler called me at 2 a.m. You need to hear this. I was already awake, staring at the ceiling. I grabbed my phone and headed downstairs. What have you got? Felix stayed until last call. Around midnight, he went outside to make a phone call. I followed, kept my distance. He was talking to Marla. Nolan, they're moving Lori this week, Thursday. They've already got the transport arranged. Transport? Some kind of private service that Riverside uses to pick up kids. They show up with paperwork, claim educational transport or therapeutic services, and the parents sign off. By the time anyone questions it, the kid's halfway across the country. I felt my jaw clench. That's barely legal. Probably isn't legal, but who's going to stop them? Parents have rights, unless there's a court order preventing it. Which we don't have. Park opened an investigation, but that takes time. Days, maybe weeks. So what do? I paced the kitchen. Thursday was 3 days away. Even if Park moved fast, even if we filed emergency motions, we couldn't guarantee anything would happen in time. Keep watching Felix, I said. I need to know exactly when they're planning to move her. Time of day, who's coming, everything. Already on it. But Nolan? You're thinking about doing something stupid, aren't you? Probably. Want backup? Not yet. Let me figure out what stupid looks like first. I made coffee and opened my laptop. 3 a.m. was good for research. The world was quiet, my head was clear. I pulled up everything I could find on youth transport services. The legitimate ones operated with proper licensing, required multiple signatures, worked with court orders. The shadier ones operated in legal gray areas. Riverside used a company called Safe Passage Youth Services. Their website was professional, but when I dug into their history, I found complaints, lots of complaints. Parents who claimed their kids had been transported against their will, teenagers who said they'd been tricked, former employees who described training that was more security guard than counselor. This was the company Marla had hired to take Lori. Meredith came downstairs at 6. "You've been up all night," she said. "Couldn't sleep." She poured coffee and sat across from me. "What did Tyler find?" I told her everything. When I finished, Meredith's face was pale but set. "We can't let that happen." "I know. I mean it, Nolan. I will physically block that door before I let some strangers take that child away. It might come to that. Then I'm ready." She took my hand. "What's the plan?" "Working on it. But this could go wrong in about 50 different ways. So we get proof first. Lori. She's lived with them for 13 years. She knows things. We get her to write it all down, times, dates, specific incidents. It was good thinking. Documentation helped, especially if it was detailed and consistent. She'd need to do it somewhere safe, I said, somewhere they couldn't interrupt or influence her. Here, we bring her here. They won't let us. Then we don't ask permission. Meredith's eyes were fierce. Stop trying to play by their rules. She was right. I'd been thinking like an investigator when I needed to think like something harder. I spent Tuesday making preparations. I pulled every piece of evidence I had. Photos of the lock, financial records showing Felix's spending, recordings of his drunken confessions, the connections between Dr. Wright and Riverside. Then I did something I'd never done before. I reached out to 3 different journalists who specialized in exposing wrongdoing inside institutions. I sent them anonymous tips with just enough detail to make them curious. If this went south, if Marla managed to disappear Lori anyway, at least someone would be asking questions. Tyler called Tuesday evening. Got the timeline, Thursday morning, 7 a.m., 2 transporters. They're planning to tell Lori it's a school field trip, get her in the van before she realizes what's happening. Felix going to be there? Probably passed out. This is all Marla's show. Good, that makes it easier. Makes what easier? I'll let you know. Wednesday morning, I got a call from Jennifer Park. I have news. The judge granted temporary emergency custody pending a full hearing. Lori can stay with you starting Friday. Friday. 1 day too late. That's great, I said. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Marla's lawyer is already filing appeals. And Nolan? Be careful. She's desperate, and desperate people do unpredictable things. After we hung up, I sat there thinking. Friday was too late. By Friday, Lori would be in a van heading out of state. Once she crossed state lines, getting her back would be infinitely harder. I called Tyler. I need you Thursday morning, 6:30 a.m. What are we doing? Intercepting a transport. That's kidnapping, Nolan. Only if we lose. Wednesday afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. They're making me pack. Please help. I responded immediately. Tomorrow morning, early. Be ready. That night, Meredith and I went over the plan. It was simple, probably too simple, but complicated plans had more failure points. Are you sure about this? She asked. No, but I'm sure about what happens if we don't try. All right then. She kissed me. Let's go get our girl. Thursday morning, 5:45 a.m. Tyler and I sat in his truck 2 blocks from Marla's house. The street was dark and quiet. Most people were still asleep. Transport van should arrive around 7, Tyler said. That gives us a window. Small window. Better than no window? At 6:15, lights came on in Marla's house. We watched through binoculars as shapes moved behind curtains. Marla was up, probably making final preparations. What if Lori doesn't want to come? Tyler asked. She will. But what if she doesn't? What if she's scared, or confused, or... She'll come. At 6:30, I sent a text to the unknown number Lori had been using. Back door, 5 minutes, be quiet. No response. My heart was hammering. We drove around to the alley that ran behind the houses. Tyler killed the lights. I got out and moved through the shadows toward Marla's back fence. The gate was unlocked. I slipped into the yard and approached the back door. I tried the handle. Locked. I was about to text again when I heard the deadbolt slide. The door cracked open. Lori stood there in jeans and a hoodie, a small backpack over her shoulders. Her eyes were wide and terrified. Uncle Nolan? Come on, quick and quiet. She hesitated for just a second, then stepped outside. I took her hand and we moved fast through the yard, through the gate, into the alley where Tyler was waiting. We were pulling away when I saw bedroom lights flick on in Marla's house. We'd made it. Barely. Tyler drove carefully, obeying every speed limit, every stop sign. We couldn't afford to get pulled over now. Lori sat between us, shaking. What's happening? Where are we going? Somewhere safe, I said. Your mom was planning to send you away today, to a facility. We couldn't let that happen. So, you just took me? Yes. That's kidnapping. Technically, yes. But you're safer with us than you were there. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, thank you. We got her back to our house, and inside, before the sun came up, Meredith was waiting. She wrapped Lori in a hug that lasted a full minute. You're safe now, Meredith whispered. We've got you. My phone started ringing at 7:15. Marla. I didn't answer. It rang again and again. Then texts started coming through. Where is she? Nolan, answer your phone. I'm calling the police. You just destroyed your life. I turned the phone off. At 8 a.m., there was pounding on our door. I looked through the window. 2 police officers. Mr. Avery, we need to talk to you about your niece. I opened the door. Officers. We got a call about a possible custodial interference. Is Lori Keene here? She is. We're going to need you to come down to the station. Am I under arrest? Not yet, but you need to come with us. I looked back at Meredith. She nodded. We'd known this was coming. Let me get my jacket. At the station, they put me in an interrogation room. I'd sat in rooms like this 100 times, but always on the other side of the table. The walls were beige, the fluorescent lights flickered slightly, and everything smelled like old coffee and desperation. Detective Graham came in after 20 minutes. I knew him from my cop days. He looked disappointed. Nolan, what were you thinking? I was thinking about keeping a kid safe. By taking her from her legal guardians? By preventing her from being transported against her will to an unlicensed facility 3 states away. That's not your call to make. Then whose call is it? The mother who locks her in her room at night? The drunk stepfather who spends their money at bars while talking about cashing out on the crazy kid? Graham sat down across from me. You have evidence of all this? I have recordings, photos, financial records, witness statements. I have everything except time because they were moving her this morning. Jennifer Park from CPS called me. She says there's an active investigation. There is. And as of yesterday, I have temporary emergency custody pending a full hearing. Graham's eyebrows went up. You have custody? Effective Friday. They were moving her Thursday. I couldn't wait. So you committed a felony to enforce a court order that wasn't active yet. I committed a felony to save a kid. If that cost me my license, my freedom, whatever, then that's the price. Graham studied me for a long moment. You really believe she's in danger? I know she is. All right. Stay here. He left. I sat there for 2 hours, wondering if I'd just ruined everything. If Marla would get Lori back. If I'd go to jail. If the temporary custody order would be revoked. Finally, Graham came back with Jennifer Park. Mr. Avery, Park said, I've spoken with Detective Graham and reviewed the evidence you've compiled. I've also spoken with Lori. Given the circumstances, and given that you have a valid custody order that takes effect tomorrow, we're going to handle this as a civil matter rather than criminal. Meaning? Meaning you're not getting arrested, but there will be a hearing. Tomorrow. You, Marla, lawyers, and a judge. You'll need to convince that judge that everything you did was necessary. I can do that. You better hope so, because if you can't, Lori goes back to Marla and you face custodial interference charges. They let me go around noon. When I got home, Meredith and Lori were sitting at the kitchen table. Lori had been writing, pages and pages of notes in neat handwriting. What's this? I asked. Everything, Lori said quietly. Everything they did. Everything I remember. Dates, times, what was said. You said you needed evidence, so here it is. I picked up the first page and started reading. My hands started shaking halfway through. Meredith put her hand on my shoulder. It's bad. It's worse than bad. That night, I compiled everything into a single document. Lori's statement, the photos, the recordings, the financial records, Dr. Wright's referral pattern, Riverside's complaints, Felix's drunken confessions. By midnight, I had a 90-page file that told a story no judge could ignore. At least, that's what I hoped. The hearing was scheduled for 10 a.m. Friday morning. We arrived early. Marla was already there with her lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman named Patricia Vance who specialized in family law. Marla looked perfect, as always. Hair done, makeup subtle, dressed like a concerned mother who just wanted her troubled daughter back. When she saw Lori holding Meredith's hand, her mask slipped for just a second. Pure rage. Then it was gone, replaced by practiced sadness. The judge was Honorable Robert Chen, 60-something with gray hair and reading glasses. He'd been on the bench for 20 years and had a reputation for being tough, but fair. "Let's begin," he said. "Ms. Vance, your client is requesting immediate return of custody of the minor child Lori Keene, correct?" "Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Keene's daughter was taken from her home yesterday morning without permission, without warning, and without legal authority. This is a clear case of custodial interference." "Mr. Avery, you're representing yourself?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Not advisable, but it's your right. What's your response to these allegations?" I stood. "Your Honor, I have temporary emergency custody of Lori as of yesterday. That order was granted because Child Protective Services found evidence of mistreatment and neglect in my sister's home. I removed Lori one day early because I had credible information that she was going to be transported out of state before the custody order took effect." "One day early is still early, Mr. Avery. The law doesn't work on close enough." "I understand, Your Honor. But if I'd waited, Lori would be in another state right now, in a facility with a documented history of mistreatment and inadequate care." "You have evidence of this alleged transport?" "I do." For the next hour, I presented everything. Tyler's recordings of Felix talking about the transport, documentation from Safe Passage Youth Services, the connection between Dr. Wright and Riverside, complaints filed against the facility. Then I presented the photos of the lock on Lori's door, financial records showing Felix's spending, Lori's own written statement. Marla's lawyer objected repeatedly, but Judge Chen let most of it in. "Ms. Vance, your response?" "Your Honor, Mr. Avery has taken isolated incidents and woven them into a conspiracy theory. Yes, there's a lock on Lori's door. That's because she has a history of wandering at night, which is dangerous. Yes, Mr. Dorsey enjoys social drinking. That doesn't make him unfit. Yes, they were considering residential treatment. That's because Lori has serious behavioral issues that they're not equipped to handle at home." "What behavioral issues specifically?" "Manipulation, lying, creating conflict between adults. Dr. Wright documented all of this." "I'd like to hear from Dr. Wright." "She's not available today, Your Honor." "That's convenient." Judge Chen looked at me. "Mr. Avery, you claim Dr. Wright's evaluation was falsified or misleading." "I claim it was tailored to justify placement at Riverside, which pays referral bonuses. I also claim that Dr. Wright has testified in 9 similar cases in 3 years, and in 8 of them recommended Riverside specifically. That's not clinical judgment. That's a business arrangement." "Objection!" Vance was on her feet. "That's pure speculation." "Is it?" I pulled out another document. "Lakshith, this is Riverside's financial disclosure from last year. They paid out over $200,000 in referral fees to medical professionals. Dr. Wright received $18,000. The courtroom went quiet. Judge Chen took the document and read it carefully. "Ms. Vance, were you aware of this?" "Your Honor, referral relationships are common in medical practice." "Not when they involve institutionalizing children." He set the paper down. "Here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a pattern of behavior that concerns me greatly. I'm seeing a mother more focused on appearances than her daughter's well-being. I'm seeing a stepfather with substance issues. And I'm seeing a child who, when given the choice, chose to go with her uncle." "She's 13, Vance protested. "She can't make legal decisions?" "No, but she can express a preference. And this court gives weight to those preferences." He looked at Lori. "A young lady, I'd like to speak with you privately in my chambers. Is that all right?" Lori nodded. They were gone for 15 minutes. When they came back, Lori's eyes were red, but she was holding her head up. Judge Chen took his seat. "I've made my decision. The temporary emergency custody order is hereby made permanent pending a full custody hearing in 30 days. Lori will remain with Nolan and Meredith Avery. Mrs. Keene, you will have supervised visitation rights 2 hours per week at a neutral location." Marla shot to her feet. "You can't do this. She's my daughter." "Mrs. Keene, I suggest you sit down before I hold you in contempt." "This is because of him." She pointed at me. "He's always done this. Always made me look bad. Always played the hero. Always." "Mrs. Keene," Judge Chen's voice cracked like a whip. "One more word and you'll be removed from this courtroom." Marla's lawyer pulled her back down into her seat, but the damage was done. The mask had cracked completely, and everyone in the room had seen what was underneath. "Furthermore," Judge Chen continued, "I'm ordering a full investigation into the relationship between Dr. Helena Wright and Riverside Behavioral Center. If I find evidence of financial impropriety in the placement of minors, I will refer this matter to the state medical board and the district attorney." He banged his gavel. "We're adjourned." As we filed out, Marla grabbed my arm. Her fingers dug in hard enough to bruise. "You're going to regret this," she hissed. "I will make you regret this." "Let go of my arm, Marla." "You've turned my own daughter against me. You've ruined my reputation. You've destroyed everything I built." "No, you did that yourself." She let go and stepped back. For a moment, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not anger, not hatred, fear. "This isn't over," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "It is." We walked out of the courthouse into bright sunshine. Lori was holding Meredith's hand. My wife was crying quietly, tears of relief running down her face. "Is it real?" Lori asked. "Do I really get to stay with you?" "You really do," I said. "Forever?" "For as long as you want." She hugged me then, and I felt something unlock in my chest that had been tight for 10 years. This wasn't the child Meredith and I had tried to have. But maybe she was the child we were supposed to save. The next 2 weeks were quiet. Legally quiet, anyway. Marla didn't show up for her supervised visitation. Her lawyer called twice to discuss appeal options, but both times we declined to negotiate. Felix filed for separation. According to Tyler's sources, he'd moved into a motel and was drinking harder than ever. Without Marla's money and control, he was falling apart fast. Dr. Wright's license was suspended pending investigation. 3 other families came forward claiming they'd been pressured to send their kids to Riverside. The facility itself was facing multiple lawsuits. And Marla? Marla disappeared from public view. Her enrichment center posted a notice that she was taking a medical leave for personal health reasons. The reality was simpler, or her reputation was destroyed. Every parent who'd trusted her now questioned everything. Every professional relationship she'd built was tainted by association with Wright and Riverside. Lori started therapy. Real therapy, with a counselor who actually listened. She was doing better. Sleeping better. Eating better. She'd even laughed a few times, real laughs that lit up her whole face. Meredith was happier than I'd seen her in years. She'd started the adoption paperwork, wanting to make it official, wanting Lori to be legally ours, not just temporarily. I should have known the quiet wouldn't last. It was a Wednesday evening, 2 weeks after the hearing. I was working late in my home office when my phone rang. Unknown number. Nolan Avery. "Mr. Avery, this is Detective Graham. We have a situation. Can you come to the station?" "What kind of situation?" "Your sister. She's here. She's asking for you." I drove to the station with a sick feeling in my gut. When I arrived, Graham met me at the door. "What's going on?" "She showed up about an hour ago. Said she needed to talk to you, said it was important." He paused. "Nolan, she looks bad. Really bad." He led me to a conference room. Marla was sitting at the table, and Graham was right. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, her makeup smudged. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. When she saw me, she started crying. "Nolan, please, I need help." I sat down across from her. "What do you want, Marla?" "I want my life back. I want my daughter back. I want everything to go back to the way it was before you ruined it." "I didn't ruin anything. You did that yourself." "No!" She slammed her hands on the table. "You did this. You always do this. Ever since we were kids, you've been the good one, the hero, and I've been the problem. Do you know what that's like? Always being compared to perfect Nolan? This isn't about me. It's always about you." She was screaming now. "You couldn't have kids, so you took mine. You couldn't stand seeing me succeed, so you destroyed my business. You... Stop." I kept my voice level. "I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to listen. I didn't take Lori because I wanted a child. I took her because you were hurting her. You locked her in her room. You planned to ship her away. You chose your reputation over her well-being every single time." "I was trying to help her." "No. You were trying to help yourself, and now you're facing the consequences." Marla wiped her eyes. The tears stopped as suddenly as they'd started. When she looked up at me, her expression was cold and calculating again. "You think you've won," she said quietly. "You think you're safe, but you're not. I know things about you, Nolan. Things from when you were on the force. Things that could cost you your PI license, maybe more." "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning. Give Lori back. Tell the court you made a mistake. Let things go back to normal, or I start making phone calls." I stood up. "Do whatever you want, Marla. Make your calls, tell your stories. It won't change anything. Lori is safe, she's happy, and she's ours. She's mine. Not anymore." I walked out. Graham was waiting in the hall. That sounded rough, he said. She's desperate. Desperate people make stupid choices. You think she'll follow through on those threats? Probably, but I've got nothing to hide. Let her try. But driving home, I felt uneasy. Marla was cornered, and cornered animals were dangerous. I needed to be ready for whatever came next. I was 2 blocks from home when I saw the smoke. I floored the gas pedal. The smoke was coming from my street, from my house. Fire trucks were already there when I arrived, lights strobing in the darkness. Neighbors stood on lawns, watching, and my house was burning. I abandoned the car in the middle of the street and ran toward the flames. A firefighter grabbed me. "Sir, you can't. That's my house. My wife and niece are in there. They're out. They're safe. Over there." He pointed to an ambulance. Meredith and Lori were sitting on the back bumper, wrapped in blankets, breathing oxygen from masks. I ran to them. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Meredith pulled off her mask. "We're fine. Smoke inhalation, but we're fine." "What happened?" "Someone threw something through the window, a bottle with a rag in it. Old school. We got out the back door." I looked at the house. The first floor was fully involved, flames eating through the living room where we'd sat just this morning having breakfast. Everything we owned was in there. Photos, documents, clothes, memories. "Where's the case file?" I asked. Meredith's eyes widened. "In your office. I didn't—" "It's okay. I've got copies. Multiple copies." A fire investigator approached us. "Mr. Avery, I'm Captain Lewis. Can you think of anyone who might want to do this?" I could think of one person. "My sister, Marla Keene." "You sure about that?" "Talked to Detective Graham at the station. I was just with her. She threatened me. This happened an hour later." Lewis made notes. "We'll look into it. In the meantime, you folks have somewhere to stay?" "Hotel," I said. "We'll figure it out." We spent that night in a Holiday Inn 3 miles away. Lori cried herself to sleep. Meredith held her, stroking her hair and whispering that everything would be okay. But I wasn't sure it would be. The next morning, Detective Graham called. "Marla's got an alibi. She was at the station with me when the fire started." "So she hired someone." "Probably, but proving it will be hard. And Nolan, there's more. Someone filed a complaint with the state licensing board about your PI work. Multiple violations alleged. Harassment, illegal surveillance, falsifying evidence. Let me guess who filed it." "The complaint is anonymous. But yeah, timing's suspicious." I hung up and sat on the hotel bed, thinking. Marla was burning everything down, literally and figuratively. She couldn't get Lori back, so she was destroying me instead. Fine. 2 could play that game. I called Tyler. "I need everything you can find on Marla. Personal life, business dealings, financial records, everything. I don't care if it's legal or not. I need ammunition." "Nolan. She burned my house down, Tyler. She threatened my family. I'm done playing nice." There was a long pause. "All right. Give me 48 hours." Those 48 hours were the longest of my life. We stayed in the hotel. I filed insurance claims. I dealt with the licensing board investigation. I made sure Lori kept going to therapy, kept going to school, tried to maintain some sense of normalcy. But inside, I was planning. Tyler called on Saturday morning. "Got something. You're going to want to see this in person." We met at a coffee shop. Tyler slid a folder across the table. "Marla's been embezzling from her enrichment center. Not a lot, but steady. About $3,000 a month for the past 2 years. She's got a second account Felix doesn't know about. That's where the money goes." "What's she spending it on?" "Appearances. Designer clothes, spa treatments, expensive lunches. She's broke, but she's spending like she's rich, trying to maintain the image." "That's fraud." "Yeah, and there's more. The enrichment center gets state funding for low-income kids, but according to her books, she's been claiming twice as many low-income students as she actually serves. She's been pocketing the difference." "How much are we talking?" "Over the past 3 years, about 80,000. I sat back. "That's enough for criminal charges." "Yeah, but if you report this, it becomes public. Everyone will know. Her business will definitely close. She'll probably go to jail." "Good. You sure? She's still your sister." "She burned my house down, Tyler. She threatened my family. She hurt a child for years. I'm sure." I spent the weekend compiling everything: the embezzlement evidence, the fraudulent funding claims, documentation of the arson, the licensing board complaint, everything Marla had done. I laid it out in careful detail. Monday morning, I walked into the district attorney's office and handed them the file. "I'd like to report multiple felonies," I said. The assistant DA who met with me was a young guy named Brennan. He looked through the file with growing interest. "This is substantial," he said. "If even half of this is accurate, it's all accurate. And I have witnesses, recordings, and documents to back up every claim." "Why bring this now? Why not when your house burned down?" "Because I wanted to make sure I had everything. I wanted to make sure when you went after her, she'd have nowhere to hide." Brennan nodded slowly. "All right. We'll investigate. But Mr. Avery, this is your sister. Once we start this process, there's no stopping it. She'll be arrested. She'll face charges. Her life will be over." "Her life was over the moment she chose appearances over her daughter's safety. I'm just making it official." I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in weeks. It wasn't over yet, but the end was in sight. That afternoon, I got a call from Jennifer Park. "The full custody hearing has been moved up. Judge Chen wants to finalize things. Can you be there tomorrow morning?" "We'll be there." "Nolan, Marla won't be there. Her lawyer withdrew from the case this morning. Apparently Marla can't pay her anymore." "Good." The next morning, we stood in Judge Chen's courtroom. Just us, Park, and the judge. No Marla, no lawyer, no opposition. "Mr. and Mrs. Avery," Judge Chen said, "I've reviewed all the materials from the previous hearing, as well as the follow-up reports from CPS. I'm satisfied that Lori is thriving in your care. Therefore, I'm terminating Mrs. Keene's parental rights and granting you full permanent custody." Just like that, it was done. Lori squeezed my hand. Meredith was crying again, but these were good tears. "Thank you, Your Honor," I said. "Take care of her. That's all the thanks I need." We walked out of the courthouse into spring sunshine. Somewhere across town, Marla was probably finding out about the DA's investigation, about the arrest warrant that was being prepared, about the fact that everything she'd built was crumbling around her. I should have felt guilty, should have felt something for the sister I'd grown up with. But all I felt was relief. Lori was safe. That was all that mattered. The arrest happened on Thursday. I heard about it from Tyler, who heard about it from a cop friend. Marla was taken into custody at her enrichment center in front of staff and parents. They charged her with embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy to commit arson. Felix tried to post bail. Couldn't afford it. Marla spent 3 nights in jail before her emergency public defender got her released on her own recognizance. I didn't go to see her, didn't call, didn't reach out. Some people thought that was cold, but those people hadn't watched their house burn, hadn't seen what Marla did to Lori. We were living in a rental house now, waiting for the insurance to settle. It was smaller than our old place, but it felt like home. Lori had her own room. We'd bought new furniture, started building new memories. She was doing well, really well. Her grades had improved. She'd made friends at school. She laughed more, had nightmares less. One evening, about a month after Marla's arrest, Lori came to me while I was working in my makeshift office. "Uncle Nolan, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you think my mom will go to jail?" I chose my words carefully. "Probably. What she did was serious. The evidence is strong." "Does that make me a bad person? That I don't feel sad about it?" "No, it makes you honest." I turned to face her fully. "Lori, your mom made choices. Bad choices. Choices that hurt you. You're allowed to feel however you feel about that. Relief, anger, sadness, nothing at all. It's all okay. I do feel sad sometimes, like sad that she couldn't just be a normal mom, but mostly I just feel free." "Good, that's good." She hugged me and went back to her homework. I sat there thinking about Marla, about how she'd had everything, a daughter who loved her, a business, respect, and she'd thrown it all away because she cared more about appearances than truth. The trial was set for September. Marla's public defender tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the DA wasn't interested. They wanted the maximum sentence, wanted to make an example. In August, Marla called me. First time in months. I almost didn't answer. "Nolan." "Marla." "I'm going to prison. You know that, right? They're going to take everything." "Yeah, I know." "This is what you wanted. You wanted to destroy me." "No, I wanted to save Lori. You destroyed yourself." There was a long silence on the line. "I did love her, you know," Marla said quietly. "In my own way. I did." "Love isn't about your own way. It's about their way, their needs, their safety. You never understood that. And you do? You, who couldn't even have a kid of your own?" "I have one now." "She's not yours. She's mine. She'll always be—" I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. The trial lasted 2 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Marla's lawyer tried to paint her as a victim, someone overwhelmed by circumstances. But the prosecution had recordings, documents, witnesses. They had everything. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, guilty on all counts. Sentencing was set for October. The judge gave her 8 years in state prison. With good behavior, she'd be out in 6. Felix had disappeared by then. Last anyone heard, he'd moved out of state. Good riddance. Lori didn't go to the trial, didn't want to, and I didn't push her. She'd given her statement to the police, had done what she needed to do. She didn't need to watch Marla fall apart in a courtroom. But the day after sentencing, Lori asked if we could visit the old house. The insurance had cleared the lot, but the foundation was still there, blackened and empty. We stood looking at it for a long time. "Why did you do all this?" Lori asked. "Why did you risk everything for me?" "Because you're family. Real family. Not biology, not obligation, choice. But you lost so much. Your house, almost your license, your sister. I didn't lose anything that mattered. I gained everything that does." I put my arm around her shoulders. "You, Lori, I gained you." She leaned against me. "I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm yours." "Me too, kid. Me too." It was Thanksgiving when everything finally came together. We'd invited Tyler and his wife over, cooked a turkey, made stuffing, spent the day being thankful for what we had instead of mourning what we'd lost. Lori was laughing at one of Tyler's stories, and I caught Meredith's eye across the table. She smiled at me, and I saw everything in that smile. Love, pride, contentment. We'd made it through. After dinner, while Tyler and Meredith were cleaning up, Lori pulled me aside. "I wrote something," she said. "For school. An essay about family. Can I read it to you?" "Of course." She pulled out a folded piece of paper and cleared her throat. "Family isn't who you're born to. It's who stays. Who fights for you. Who sees you at your worst and loves you anyway. For 13 years, I lived with people who were family through shared lineage, but not through choice. They saw me as a problem to fix, a burden to carry. But then I met people who saw me as a person to love. My Uncle Nolan and my Aunt Meredith didn't have to take me in. They didn't have to risk everything, but they did. Because that's what real family does. Real family stays." My throat was tight. "That's beautiful, Lori. Is it okay? It's not too much?" "It's perfect." She hugged me, and I held her tight. This girl who'd survived so much and come out the other side stronger. Later that night, after Tyler and his wife had left and Lori had gone to bed, Meredith and I stood in the kitchen finishing the last of the dishes. "Do you think she'll be okay?" Meredith asked. "Long term?" "I think she's already okay. She's resilient. She's smart. She's got us." "Do you ever wonder what Marla's doing right now? In prison?" "No, I don't waste time on that." "Good." Meredith dried her hands and turned to face me. "I love you. I love what we've built. I love that we got to save her." "I love you too." We stood there in comfortable silence, two people who'd been through hell and come out holding hands. The adoption papers were finalized in December. Lori officially became Lori Avery on December 15th. She cried. Meredith cried. I almost cried, but managed to keep it together. We had a small celebration at home. Just the 3 of us, pizza and ice cream and bad movies. Normal family stuff. That night, I stood in Lori's doorway watching her sleep. She looked peaceful, safe, home. I thought about everything that had happened, about the note Marla had slipped into my hand that started all of this, about the choices I'd made, the lines I'd crossed, the person I'd had to become. I thought about my sister, locked in a cell, paying for her crimes, and I didn't feel guilty. I felt victorious. Because sometimes justice looks like revenge. Sometimes saving someone means destroying someone else. And sometimes the right thing to do is the hardest thing, the meanest thing, the thing that costs everything. But when you look at what you gain, when you look at the child sleeping safely in her bed, finally free from the people who hurt her, you know it was worth it. Every single bit of it. 3 months later, on a cold February morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Nolan Avery. "Mr. Avery, this is Warden Phillips at Millbrook Correctional. I'm calling about your sister, Marla Keene." My heart sank. "What about her?" "She was involved in an incident last night. Another inmate. She's in medical, but she'll be fine. However, she's asking to see you, says it's urgent." "No." "Mr. Avery?" I said no. Whatever she wants, I'm not interested. She made her choices. Now she lives with them. I hung up. Lori was at the kitchen table doing homework when I came back inside. She looked up. "Everything okay?" "Everything's fine. Just work stuff." She went back to her math, and I stood there watching her, this girl who was mine now. Really mine, not Marla's, not anyone else's, mine and Meredith's. I'd spent 15 years as a cop and then a PI, chasing other people's monsters, catching them, putting them away. I'd thought I knew what justice looked like, but I'd been wrong. Justice wasn't about courts and evidence and following procedure. Justice was about making sure that little girls got to do homework in safe kitchens, about making sure that people who hurt them paid the price, about being willing to burn everything down to protect what mattered. Marla would be in prison for years. Felix was gone, Dr. Wright lost her license. Riverside Behavioral Center was shut down, the monsters were caged, and Lori was free. That night, after Lori went to bed, I sat in my office looking at the case file I'd built. All the evidence, all the photos, all the recordings, the document that had taken down my sister and saved my niece. I should probably destroy it. There was no legal reason to keep it anymore. The case was closed, the trial was over, everything was settled, but I didn't destroy it. I kept it. A reminder. A trophy, maybe. Evidence of what I'd done and what I was willing to do. Because sometimes, to protect the people you love, you have to become something darker, something harder, something that doesn't hesitate when the moment comes. I'd crossed lines, broken laws, betrayed my own family, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. The next morning was Saturday. I made pancakes while Meredith set the table. Lori came downstairs in pajamas, hair messy, still half asleep. Normal kid stuff. We ate together, talking about nothing important, plans for the day, whether we should get a dog, what movie to watch tonight. Normal family things. And as I sat there, listening to Lori laugh at something Meredith said, I realized something. I'd won. Not in court, not in some legal battle, but in the way that actually mattered. I'd taken a broken child and given her a home. I'd taken a monster disguised as a mother and stripped away her mask. I'd taken a system that was designed to fail kids like Lori and forced it to work. I'd won because Lori was safe, because she was happy, because when she smiled now, it reached her eyes. Marla was in prison. Felix was gone. The people who'd hurt this child were paying the price. And me? I was sitting at my kitchen table on a Saturday morning, eating pancakes with my family. That was victory. That was revenge. That was justice. That afternoon, I got a text from Tyler. Heard Marla tried to call you. You all right? Yeah, I'm good. Need anything? Nope. Got everything I need right here. I put the phone down and went outside where Meredith and Lori were trying to plant a garden in our new backyard. They were laughing, covered in dirt, arguing good-naturedly about where the tomatoes should go. This was my life now. Not chasing monsters, not building cases, just being a father to a girl who needed one. I'd spent 15 years thinking I knew what winning looked like. Collars, convictions, closed cases. But I'd been wrong about that too. Winning looked like this. Dirt under fingernails and laughter in the backyard and a kid who finally felt safe. Winning looked like family. I walked over and knelt down in the dirt beside them. What can I do to help? Lori handed me a trowel. Start digging. Aunt Meredith thinks we need raised beds, but I think that's too complicated. Your aunt is usually right about these things. Hey, Lori protested, but she was grinning. We spent the rest of the afternoon working in the garden, planning what to plant, arguing about the best way to keep rabbits out. Normal stuff, beautiful stuff. As the sun started to set, Lori stood up and stretched. I'm going to shower before dinner. After she went inside, Meredith moved closer to me. You okay? You've been quiet. Just thinking. About how we got here. About everything that happened. Regrets? I looked at the house, at the light glowing in Lori's window. Not a single one. Meredith kissed my cheek. Good, because I don't have any either. That night, lying in bed, I thought about Marla one last time. Wondered if she understood yet what she'd lost. If she'd figured out that her need for control, her obsession with appearances, her cruelty had cost her everything that mattered. Probably not. People like Marla never did. But it didn't matter anymore. She was part of my past, locked away where she couldn't hurt anyone else. And my future? My future was down the hall, sleeping safe in a room with no locks on the outside of the door. I'd started this fight to save a child. I'd ended it with a daughter. That was the only victory I needed. 6 months later, Lori came home from school with a permission slip for a field trip. She hesitated before showing it to me. What's wrong? I asked. It needs a parent's signature. So? It says parent or legal guardian. She looked at me uncertainly. Which are you? I took the paper from her and signed it without hesitation. Both. I'm both. Her whole face lit up. Really? Really. You're ours now, Lori. Completely. Forever. She hugged me so hard I could barely breathe. Thank you for everything, for fighting for me, for not giving up. You don't have to thank me. That's what parents do. No, she said quietly. That's what good parents do. Later that evening, after Lori went to bed, I stood in my office looking at the case file one last time. Then I closed it, put it in a box, and stored it in the back of the closet. I didn't need it anymore. The fight was over. The monsters were caged. The child was safe. I'd won.